Hello and welcome to the Profits and Prana podcast, where I am dedicated to helping you breathe more profits into your soulful business. My name is Ysmay. I'm a yoga teacher, yoga business coach, and the founder of 42yogis.com. I want every soulful entrepreneur to be able to grow their business in a way that is in alignment with their truth and their values. To help me with that today is Gabrielle Polici. Gabrielle has been working in the health and wellness industry for over 10 years, and she has a lot of valuable information to share with you today. So make sure you grab a pen and a piece of paper because you are going to want to take some notes. Without any further delay, let's get right to the interview. Dr. Gabby is a holistic health expert and founder of Women in Wellness Career Training. Dr. Gabby has more than 2,000 hours of training in holistic modalities and is certified in massage therapy, healing touch, kundalini yoga, and mindfulness meditation. She is regularly featured on national and local media such as MSNBC, Huffington Post, and Spirituality and Health magazine. Dr. Gabby offers private coaching for a select number of clients who are looking to create more success in their work and life. And today we are going to be talking about the business side of holistic health. So Gabby, would you like to introduce yourself further?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. This is really fun. I've been teaching holistic health modalities for 10 years now at different universities, all kinds of courses in nutrition, alternative healing therapies, meditation, and helping people to learn how to integrate holistic therapies into their own life and then also do it as a practice. So in clinics or hospitals or wellness centers or things like that. And it's been an incredible joy and pleasure to do that. But what I've noticed over the last 10 years is that many of my students will graduate with a degree in holistic health or mind-body medicine, and then they'll really struggle once they finish to figure out how to get the clients or how to get a job or how to publish articles or speak at conferences. And I feel like there's a gap there for students. They don't get a lot of that training when they're doing the theory and the research and the practice of the modalities. So, I've tried over the last year to develop some things to support them. I developed this training and coaching, and, it's an amazing experience. It's a whole other side of wellness, right? It's not the what to eat and, what spiritual practices to do, but how do you take your passion for that and build a successful holistic business?
So I think that you're right. There is a huge gap. That I've seen this in yoga teachers, especially. I mean, you spend all that money on your yoga teacher training and you walk away not knowing how to market yourself, how to attract students, and you know how to teach a class, but that's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much more to yoga. A lot of friends of mine, they did the teacher training, they got a few teaching gigs, they got a few more teaching gigs, they got a few more teaching gigs, and now they're teaching yoga 40 hours a week and they're totally burnt out and they still don't have any money because, you can't make a great living if you're just teaching the group classes. So you have to learn how to integrate private sessions or other streams of revenue so that you can have a lifestyle that's comfortable and that you're not driving yourself crazy.
Yes. And you're so right there. And the biggest struggle that I keep seeing is yoga teachers trading their time for dollars. And when that's your revenue model, there's only so much you can grow. So the group classes are fine. We all love group yoga classes. Private lessons are even better. But where you can take it off of just dealing with the students in person, where you can reach more people through using the internet, developing passive income products, for example, there's even more options.
Yeah, just learning that you have options is a huge kind of, it blows people's minds, all the different options that they have. because we don't learn about revenue models or passive income or streams of income or anything like that when we're doing the training. We're learning about the chakras and the asanas, so that whole world can be really foreign. It can be really intimidating. It can be really scary. You have to get into issues of money and sales and self-promotion and marketing and social media. And, that's a big, complicated world. And, trying to create a bridge for people so that it's not so intimidating and it's not so overwhelming is something that I've been really striving to do.
Let's talk a little bit about the overwhelm and getting to that point where you do suddenly realize that there are options. So how did you get to that point?
I think I took a similar path to the one that I described that I see happening around me, which is I just kept doing. I just kept teaching and just kept, trying to get the clients. And I just kept doing and doing until I was teaching at 5 different universities and teaching yoga classes and seeing private clients and going, oh my God, like what's happening? And realizing that if you hustle, you can get work, if you hustle and you put yourself out there, but then what? Then you have a lot of classes and a lot of clients and it can become unmanageable and you have to figure out different solutions. So that's when I started to learn about ways to create things that can be repeated. So the Women in Wellness career training that I developed, I just had a group of women come through and it took a long time to write the curriculum and make the videos and do the sales but now it's created and now more and more women can come through and I don't have to recreate it because it's already there and we can continue to go through it. And then at some point that can become evergreen and I can develop something else and people can learn from the videos and the content while I'm creating something else. And I just learned that, if you build things that are more sustainable, then you can have a better quality of life.
How long did it take for you to develop the program?
This program that I currently taught, this Women in Wellness career training, it took me my whole career. I couldn't have written this 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It's a culmination of everything I learned from being in the wellness industry for 15 years as a massage therapist, as someone who was a yoga teacher and created yoga DVDs, someone who opened a wellness center, someone who got a PhD and taught at university and published articles and spoke at conferences. It's a culmination of everything. So it took 15 years to write the course. The actual course creation took about a year of reflection and writing and video producing and setting up the technology of the learning platform and all that kind of stuff.
Now, would you recommend that some of your clients develop their own program, or did you feel like it's just sort of an overwhelm and that a lot of people just may not be there yet?
I think you go through stages. I don't think someone who just graduated from a yoga teacher training is necessarily prepared to create something to train other people. I think you have to have a certain level of expertise before you can start to create your own products, which doesn't mean you have to wait 15 years. Like I'm just kind of, I was caught up in other things, but someone who just gets out of a teacher training, my advice to them would be get some experience, work with some clients, find the kind of clients that you like. Maybe you really like back pain clients, or maybe you like prenatal clients or something, and, get your feet wet, learn about them, research about them, develop an expertise, and then create something. Then create your own prenatal coursework or your own, back relief training or something. But I would say that there needs to be a certain level of practice and experience before you can develop your own stuff.
So I think that's a really good point. And especially with I don't know how to say this in a politically correct way, the lack of oversight in yoga teacher curriculums.
It's not just yoga teacher curriculums, though, because I teach bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs. I mean, programs that people are paying $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. And, it's not there. So it's not just the yoga teacher training. It's also if you become an acupuncturist, if you become a medical doctor even, you're not going to get extensive training on, how to create the business or practice management part of your work. You're not going to even get training necessarily on how to, create a resume unless you go to career services center. So there's a disconnect overall in education, whether it's a yoga teacher training or some more traditional kind of training. There's a disconnect between the skills that you need to do the business and the marketing and the career development versus, the skill set that you need to understand your craft. And they're different skills.
Yes, I agree with that. And also the simple fact that so many people that I have met who just completed their teacher training, they can't tell you where your deltoid muscle is.
Right.
And you really probably shouldn't develop your own curriculum at that point. Right.
That's the interesting thing about the nature of our industry. The holistic health industry, and I'm going to put holistic health and wellness like that as an umbrella term for the yoga and the health coaching and all these kind of new things. It's not regulated. There's no standardization. So there's no governing body saying what you have to teach someone yoga or what you have to be a health coach. There are certification programs and some of them are great, but it's an unregulated industry, which means it's the wild, wild west. It's people running to the gold mines and digging in and trying to get what they can and learning along the way. It's not something that's super structured like other aspects, other professions, other aspects of industry. So that creates a lot of opportunity because I can call myself a health coach without any very strict formal education. And I can call myself a yoga teacher even without doing a certification. I can just say I'm a yoga teacher and I can go to the local park and I can put up a sign for yoga and I can teach people yoga. So that's awesome because it creates an opening and an opportunity for so many people to dive in and to study these things and practice and teach. But it also creates a little bit of an instability because, some people don't know where the deltoid muscle is and they're teaching people about the body. So that can be dangerous and there can be a shadow side of all of this, which is people can get hurt, people can get injured, people can be told to eat certain foods or do certain asanas that are actually harmful. So there's like both good and bad in this new world of opportunity.
So I completely agree with that. And that's really the part that bothers me is the potential injury part. And I'm all for people, learning and making a new career for themselves, but it's where you could actually cause somebody to hurt themselves that kind of becomes a little alarming. And there are some yoga teachers that I've met who've done their 200-hour and they don't know very much about the body. Maybe their training didn't spend enough time on that. Maybe they didn't do their anatomy homework. And so in that regard, it's sort of like, you're obviously taking the risk anytime you go to a class that, somebody teaching doesn't know what they're doing. Like you're going to be taking that risk until the person is either so recommended that they obviously know what they are doing or the market weeds them out.
Definitely. Yeah, I always tell people that you should search for the credentials of the person. How much training have they had? How much experience have they had? And then you should interview them to see if it's the right fit for you. And you're not going to really have that opportunity if it's like a group class. But if you want to go deeper and you're working on, something that you want to heal, you have an injury, you have an illness, you have some sort of life transition or issue that you need to work on, then I recommend that they interview, they get recommendations, they get referrals. They say, have you worked with anyone else that I can speak to so I can get some, feedback about you? I would investigate the same way you would if you were buying a car or, looking for a new apartment. Like go out, look at it, test drive it, read the reviews, check the gas mileage, see what it is that you're you're buying, and if it resonates with you. And don't feel uncomfortable if you start down a path with somebody and you're not seeing results and you're not having a good experience. Kindly withdraw and say, thanks so much for everything. I think I'm going to find someone who's a better fit for me. And you don't have to be shy about that process. You're really looking for the people that resonate with you and can offer the best healing, support, and advice for you if you need a deeper level of care,
I think that's really good advice. Test drive your yoga teachers and your wellness practitioners. That's really good advice.
Definitely.
Well, we wandered a little bit from the business side of things. So I would like to ask you about sales, which is a really big roadblock when people are trying to grow their business in this industry. There's some sort of disconnect between the selling process and being a holistic entrepreneur, that it just feels weird, it feels wrong, maybe it feels a little scammy to us. So have you had clients in your Women in Wellness program who have struggled with this?
Yeah, we just had an amazing conversation about this yesterday, actually. As part of the course, we do these live video chats where we all get on Zoom and we all talk about what's happening. And the topic came up yesterday about money, about sales, about this whole process of, earning for what you do, earning for your craft. And one really interesting insight emerged that I think is often overlooked, which is in most salesy type trainings, you see, make six figures, and then you can have this, and then you can have that. And it's a very materialistic paradigm. The sales training exists within this paradigm, which says you can acquire more, you can have better, you can look better if you do this. And what I found is that message doesn't resonate with people who are in this because of the love and the service. If you're in this because you want to serve and because you want to share your gifts and because you want to help and you want to give to other people, you need a bigger vision. So there's the personal needs. If I have money, if I make money, then I can pay my bills and I can put some money away for my kids' college tuition and things like that. But then the larger vision is, if I make a lot of money doing this, what good will I serve in the world? How will I impact the world in a positive way? What charity can I donate to? What person can I scholarship? What local community center can I benefit? What if I'm really successful? What kind of positive impact can I have on the world? And that's a shift. And that aligns your purpose and your values with the sales process, because you're not going to be able to donate to ocean conservation or, starving children in third world countries if you're not doing the sales, selling your stuff, being successful, and having resources that you can direct to different organizations and projects and people that you value. So when we had this conversation, everyone on the call had this moment of oh yeah, let's be badass. Let's make a lot of money. Let's have a big impact. Let's do this. And it takes away some of this personal self-promotion and kind of narcissistic quest for more. I want to make more and I want to, have more, which feels like it is often the driving factor for a lot of the sales training and a lot of the marketing is make more money, for what? Why do you want to make more money? And you have to get that in alignment with who you are and what you value. Does that make sense?
It does. And it sounds like it's a mindset reframing more than anything.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you can't think about sales and self-promotion in a way that feels comfortable, in a way that resonates, then you're just going to avoid it. You're not even going to go there. You're not going to plan your finances. You're not going to plan, your sales. You're just going to be oh, repulsive, get away. I don't want to do that, and you're just going to turn away. And it needs to be embraced in a way that's comfortable and resonates with who you are.
Yeah, I completely agree. I see that all the time. There's a yoga teacher that I met in Chicago once who wasn't charging for her classes. She wasn't charging because she's like, I'm just trying to help people. And I was like, well, you know what? If you want to teach a community class, on the weekend that's for you, then that's a really good thing to do. But you got to pay your own bills at some point. And she really struggled with that. And so then she finally started charging, and it was like $5. And it had become a process because she was feeling like it's somehow unethical to accept money for teaching yoga.
Mm-hmm. We talked about on the call yesterday that money is a neutral thing and that we can project all kinds of things onto it. We can make it evil. We can make it good. We can make it a resource. We can make it an enemy. And it's definitely tied into emotion and ethics and, our behavior, how we charge, how we don't charge, how we give it away for free, how we value ourselves, how we don't value ourselves. It's all tied up. But most of us wouldn't expect to go to a yoga teacher training and not pay. We wouldn't expect to go to a yoga class. But then when it comes to us charging thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars for something, then it's like, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. So this is something that can't be avoided. It might be uncomfortable to have these conversations. It might be uncomfortable to look at the underlying beliefs about money. It might be uncomfortable to work through the mindset shift, but there needs to be attention on this because, like you said, this is a service that they're providing and they have to get comfortable with the financial aspect of the business.
Yes, and I think in some way there's so many people who come to yoga because they want to help, because it's done wonderful things for them. I'm one of them. And then there's like, well, everybody should have access to this, right? And so you start giving it away. That doesn't pay the bills. Then you have to, keep your side job, so you get burned out because you're working another job and trying to teach yoga. And it's not a very good way to show up and be fully present for your students who are there with you, because you're burned out, you're tired, and you're like, you know what, I would rather go back to bed.
Yeah, that's a lack of attention on a certain aspect. See, the thing is, there's a difference between doing yoga as a hobby or gift or service and doing it as a business. You can go to yoga teacher training and you can teach yoga classes as a hobby, as a service, and you can use your 9-to-5 job to pay your bills. There's nothing wrong with that model. That means that you want to do it as an act of service. That's great. But once you transition and you say, I don't want to do my corporate job, I don't want to do the 9-to-5, I want to be a yoga teacher as a profession, then you have to manage the finance and the business aspect of your chosen profession. So you have to make a decision. You can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm going to do this as a business and then not do it as a business, because that's like, that's not going to work. So you have to decide. And if you really feel that you don't want to mix the money and the yoga together, you just want to do it as a service, then don't do it as a business. Just do it on the weekends or, the evenings as a service, as a gift, and give it away. And you can even say it's a donation. I'm donating this. If you want to, donate money in return, that would be great, but there's no charge. And that's a model, and that can work. But that's not a business.
Yes, this is definitely not a business. So was that something that you struggled with in the beginning? So I know I've been there, and I've run small businesses, and that's where my background is. It's in small business management. And when it came to my own thing, I was like, I know I need to charge, but I had this roadblock with it. It was just like, you know what? That doesn't feel right. And it took a lot of work to reframe. So is that something that you went through as well?
Were you teaching yoga? Is that what you started charging for?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I approached yoga the same way that I approached massage. So I had already been teaching I had already been doing massage for like 5 years, like professionally as my income before I started teaching the yoga. So I knew, this is how much a private session is. This is how much a class is. And I just added yoga as one of my services. And so it was seamless for me because I had already been working as a wellness practitioner for 5 years before I added yoga. And I just did what everyone else was doing. If everyone else was charging $15 for a class, I charged $15 for a class. And if everyone was charging $75 for private, I charged $75 for private. And that was comfortable for me because I had already gone through the learning process with my massage business of, exchanging money for service and getting comfortable telling people what my price was and, being in that business, the wellness business. So it wasn't that challenging for me to make the transition.
So would you say that it might even be easier for people who already have a background as a service provider?
Definitely. I definitely think that's true. I think one thing that happens is that people go from employee to independent practitioner and independent practitioner of I'm a health coach, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a something. So those are multiple changes that are happening at the same time. There's not only I'm leaving the 9 to 5 and I'm teaching yoga. I'm leaving, a corporate salesy type environment where there's a product and there's a price and you don't even have to think about that. In fact, you're probably not even dealing with money at your job. You're probably showing up and doing your job and getting a paycheck. And now you're kind of going to the total opposite end of the spectrum if you're an independent contractor where you are the CEO, you are the CFO, you are the human resources department, you're the marketing department, you're all the departments. And you have to sell what you're doing and you have to live a totally different kind of lifestyle where you make your own schedule and you set your own prices. And so those are very different environments. Those are different structures. I think another reason why it was never so hard for me is because I've never had a corporate job. I've only ever been a practitioner. I had a few jobs when I got out of college in offices. I worked for Teach for America. I worked for the U.S. Department of Education. But I quickly realized there was absolutely no way that I was going to be in an office for the rest of my life.
Yes, and that doesn't work for a lot of people. And I think that's also why a lot of people come to this industry, is because that whole corporate feeling it doesn't fit with who we are. Especially if it's a company where you're making a lot of money or helping a company make a lot of money and they don't share our values.
Well, yeah, and some people will stay in that job for 10 or 15 or 20 years before they transition to, I want to be a yoga teacher or I want to be a health coach. And at that point, you're so ingrained into a certain kind of lifestyle and a certain way of living that making this transition to, yoga business is different because maybe you've been doing yoga all along before work or after work, but now you're going to do it as a business. And that's not the same as jumping in a class pass yoga class, after work. It's now you're an entrepreneur and just the dynamics of being an entrepreneur is a phenomenon in and of itself. How do I make money? How do I raise money? How do I, what's my business plan? What are my streams of revenue? What is my marketing plan? What is my sales funnel? I mean, that is epic. That whole journey of becoming an entrepreneur. It's just epic.
It is. And part of that epic journey is a lot of struggle, and not just, how do I charge for my classes? How do you manage your time? How do you still see your family? How do you do marketing? So we're going to get to my favorite part here. What advice do you have for someone who's new to the wellness industry that is trying to run it as a business and has absolutely no idea where to start?
Well, not to self-promote, but take my course because I will help you. I promise I will help you. And you can have a free consultation to talk to me if you don't want to jump into the course right away. But find someone to help you. I just got a message last night from a former student. She was saying, I think I want to do, herbology and be an herbalist. And I think I want to have an herb store. And I wrote back to her and I was like, you need to go get a job at an herb store, and you need to find an herbalist who can mentor you, and don't go out and sign up for a training and get another certification until you spend a year behind a counter with your herbalist mentor, and that you find that this is your calling and your passion, and you're going to invest, you're going to create the business, you're going to, get the small business loan to set up your store, so I think we get excited in a fantasy way about some things, but we need to bring it down to the ground, and we need to get some experience before we, open up our health food store or our wellness center or build a $5,000 website with our fancy yoga pictures. We need to do it first and find mentors and find people to, support us before we dive in, I think.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, there's someone I know that it's a different industry, but they opened a coffee shop with zero experience in a coffee shop.
Did they ever even work in a coffee shop before they opened the coffee shop?
Never worked in a coffee shop a day in his life. And so then he opens this coffee shop and is like, whoa, this is different. And, a lot of people go through that. And, he stuck it out and figured it out and learned as he went. And now it's been over 10 years that he's been in business, but that's rare. And you can't expect to just suddenly, I'm going to go do this business that I've never done before and expect it to succeed. If you have no experience of even how the dynamics of teaching a class works, or how to charge for a class, how to do private lessons, how to put together those packages, it can be really difficult to get going and make a success of it.
Yeah. All the people that I know that were the most successful, they started out working for someone else, and you don't have to spend any of your own money to learn about all the things not to do. Because you can see when they launched a marketing campaign, how successful it was, when they changed the class schedule, when they, changed the prices. You can learn, you can see all of that. And then you have so much more foundation when you launch your own thing, that it's much more likely to be successful. And you'll have a sense of whether or not you like it. Because sometimes in our mind, and this has happened to me over and over again, I'm like, I would love to do that. I really want to do that. And I'll go and I'll chase it and I'll try it. And actually I'm like, I don't like the way this feels, or this is too stressful, or whatever. But you don't even know until you have the experience.
Yes, completely agree with that. So, and the experience makes a really big difference. And it sounds like it's going to be a lot of work. And you're like, oh my God, now it's going to be 2 years before I can do this. But what you learn in that time it's so worth it. So, and especially if you're working for someone else and you're not paying for this big fancy training program.
Right. So one of the things that I see is my students get addicted to doing these programs. So they'll do, I teach a Master's of Holistic Health. They'll do the Master's of Holistic Health, and then they'll go and spend $5,000 to take the Institute of Integrative Nutrition training. And then they'll go spend $5,000 to do yoga teacher training. And then they'll go spend, and I've done all those trainings, but I did them as part of the growth of my business. So when I did the massage training, I was doing massages and getting paid for that. And then when I did the yoga, I added the yoga and I was getting paid for that. So I wasn't getting 75 different certifications and still working at the bank.
Yes.
It's like, I see this habit, this pattern of just staying in certification mode and training mode and avoiding what we were talking about, avoiding the sales and the business and the money.
Well, the training mode is safe. So it's like people who go to school forever and they end up getting 5 degrees. It's a safe environment. And it feels like you're working towards your future, but at some point you have to implement what you've learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to take action.
So, all right. So if listeners could only do one thing that will transform their business at the time that they listen to this, what would it be?
Well, I'm going to say that I think, based on this conversation that we're having, the biggest takeaway is move towards the discomfort, move towards the things that you're avoiding. If you're scared about the self-promotion, if you're scared about the sales, if you're scared about the business plan, then make sure you're setting aside time every day to do that part of your business, and make sure you're finding people who can support you in that part of your business. So find that pain point, find that little area of discomfort, the thing that you're procrastinating, the thing you're avoiding, and do something today. Do something today that will create more clarity or more movement on that one thing that you're like, oh, I hate that thing. And even if it's outsourcing it, even if it's you hire an accountant and you give them all a box of receipts and you say, fix this, organize this, like do something to move it forward.
So I think that's really good advice. So there's a lot of things that because it's safe to avoid, it's comfortable to avoid. And so there have been people that I've seen who, there's this thing in their business that they really don't want to do. And so it doesn't exist. And they don't even come close to dealing with it, even if it could actually move the needle and get them closer to profitability or grow their profit.
Yeah, people like to avoid things that are uncomfortable. We do it all the time. It's human nature. It's the nature of being human. Move towards the pleasure and move away from the pain. But we need to transform those uncomfortable things into things that are comfortable. And the absolutely only guaranteed way you're going to do that is if you move through it. If you could just dance around it, it'll just always stay the same. So you got to move through those uncomfortable bits.
So that's excellent advice. And I think that's a really great note to end on. So where can listeners find more information about you?
Okay, well, you can just come to my website and you'll find lots of resources, blogs and videos and things like that. It's just my name, GabriellePulici.com. And the training that I'm doing, we just finished one training and there'll be another training starting in the spring. So that's an option for you. Or if you want to do one-on-one coaching, that's an option for you. And all of it's at GabriellePulici.com. And I'm happy to, dive in with you and figure out how we could transform what you're doing into an amazing career and life.
So that sounds wonderful. Thank you. And listeners, all of the show notes, including the links to her website, will be at 42yogis.com/podcast. You can go check it out. You can get everything that we talked about in one easy to find spot. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been awesome. I think our listeners are going to get tons of information from this. So thank you so much for giving value and for sharing your knowledge with the community.
It was my pleasure. This was really fun.
Today's episode is brought to you by the 7-Day Soulful Blogging Challenge. In this challenge, you're going to rethink the way you perceive blogging. I'm going to teach you how to blog more authentically and more efficiently. You can get all the information at 42yogis.com/7-day-blog. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to this podcast. I know you have a lot of other things going on in your life and you don't have a lot of time to waste. So when you spend some of your time here with me, I want you to know I appreciate it. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.